So the next question, as part of our marriage Q&A, is from a brother, and the question is: which intimate positions are permissible in Islam, and which positions during intimacy are prohibited, if any, in Islam? What has Islam said about this?
So, this is a discussion that actually took place at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet ﷺ, he basically clarified the answer to this question for us, right? But there was a background context to why this discussion even occurred at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. I think it's good that we address that, inshallah ta'ala, so we get a full understanding, full picture of the prophetic answer, the prophetic guidance on this issue. Basically, the Arabs used to live in Medina prior to the Prophet ﷺ coming and joining them, were heavily influenced by the Jews, because the Jews used to live in Medina as well, right? There was that constant battle between Aus and Khazraj, with the Arab tribes, and the tribes of the Jews, Banu Qurayza, Banu Qaynuqa, and so on and so forth. So, when you live with people for so long, their practices and their influences, they kind of merge with your practices and your influences. So the Jews used to basically have a belief that if you engaged in intimacy through a particular sexual position with your spouse, you're basically going to have a baby who's going to be deformed. And a particular position that they would stay away from is the position of entering your spouse from the rear. In other words, entering your spouse from behind. Now, of course, we're not talking about entering from behind in the back passage. We're talking about entering from behind, but you're still entering into the front, right? So that back passage thing, in case anyone wants to take my speech out of context, that's asking for the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay? Because the Prophet ﷺ clearly said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not look at a person, Allah will not look at a man, yet imra'atahu, he approached his wife, he penetrated, entered his wife, fi duburiha, from her back passage, yeah? That is a filth. That is something that's going to earn you a curse, yeah? So we're not even talking about that. So what they would do is they would basically not enter the front from the back. So doing that position where you're basically doing that, they would say it will cause the baby to be deformed and so on and so forth. Now, some of the Sahaba, when they accepted Islam, because they had been living in this environment, some of them, still had this kind of, thing about the intimacy positions. They still had this thing about the intimacy positions, where they would not practice that position. Now, the Sahaba who came from Mecca, they never had this belief. So for them, it was all open, from the front, from the back, from whatever, And that was a practice that they did. When a companion who came from Mecca ended up marrying a woman from Medina, and when he wanted to have intimacy with his wife in that position, she felt uncomfortable and didn't like that. Because of this, general kind of practice that they had of engaging in that position. So she became discontented and worried. This seems wrong, this position, or whatever have you. This issue was brought to the Messenger ﷺ for further clarity. Is this position wrong? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down an ayah. And we all know this ayah, many people know this ayah, but this was the reason I mentioned this whole story to you, so you can understand the reason why this ayah came down. Because it's not good to just know the answer like a parrot. You should know the context and the story that took place. And the ayah is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Nisa'ukum harthul lakum, that your women are like your tilth, right? They're like your tilth. Fa'tu harthakum anna shi'tum. Approach your tilth from however you will. So this ayah came down in the context of a discussion about intimacy positions. And of course Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's shy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the way he, one of Allah's names is the shy one, right? And he's very subtle in his language, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he didn't come out there and say straight, this is the position, whatever. No, but he said your women are like your tilth. Approach your tilth from whichever way you want. Okay? And Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah, he brings this in his book Adab al-Zafaf. That's where I'm getting it from, in case anyone thinks I'm bringing this from my own self. We're bringing this from our ulama and our mashayikh, okay? And their understanding that they've derived from these evidences. So, what we understand from this is that one is permitted to approach his wife in any intimate position. There is no position that one can say is haram. The positions are open, right? What is clearly haram is entering from the back passage. Entering from the front passage, any position is okay. Entering from the back passage, every position is haram. Do you understand the point? That's the differentiation. A lot of people sadly practice this. A lot of people don't know. People actually don't even know that this practice is not permissible. There was one man who, our teacher mentioned that, he was sitting in a circle of his sheikh when he was studying. And the sheikh was mentioning the rulings, and then he mentioned that, obviously this anal practice is haram. And the man was like, hold up. What do you mean haram? I've been doing this for like 20, 30 years with my wife. Like, he didn't know, right? So it's important that we know. Any position is okay from the front. Every position is bad from the back passage. But what about positions that might be more recommended than others? Imam Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah discussed this issue. Some positions that might be more recommended than others. He mentioned that the woman on top is something that's not good. It shouldn't happen. And he had a nice reasoning behind it. And I think it's worth mentioning it, considering the day and age that we live. He said the woman on top position, it makes the man basically behave like a woman. As in, it puts the man in the woman's position. It puts the man in the woman's position because, generally speaking, the man is the one who, in intimacy, is the one who is in control, right? Whether the man approaches from the back or the man approaches from the front. But if the woman is on top, then what this does is it puts the woman in more of a dominating position, okay? Now, what this can encourage is femininity in a man. And that's the problem that Imam Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah had. He's not saying it's haram, pay attention. It's not haram for a woman to be up on the top position with her husband. It's not haram. But he's saying it's something that we should keep in mind, that it's something that encourages femininity. It causes the man to be in the position of the woman. And sadly, we've seen how this is perverse, how perverted this has become, because now men have actually gone to engage in practices where they're not just in the woman's position, but then they're actually being treated like a woman, where they will ask their wife to actually penetrate them. This is sadly a very, very, very vulgar thing that happens, where a man will be penetrated by his own wife. And that's the thing, you see. A person might have his, that particular position, not think anything of it, but that's how shaitan plays with you. Like that's how perversion happens. Do you see? So generally speaking, it's not haram for a woman to be on top, but just bear in mind that there are some things that are taking place. Like, where does this practice originate from? Where can this lead to? Sexual perversion is a thing that very quickly escalates. That guy, there was I don't want to mention his name because I don't want to make anyone to go Google or anything. But there was a famous singer from LA who used to sleep around with a lot of women, and he was asked, and he actually became gay later on. He became a homosexual, right? And they asked him, what led you to sodomy? What led you to homosexuality? When you used to be able to have any woman that you wanted, why would you go for a man? He said, I slept with every woman and did everything with every woman that I actually got bored and I wanted to try something new. So do you see? So and sexuality is one of those things where, like, we live in such a hypersexualized society where everything has become so perverted and whatnot, and people have seen so many things online that they shouldn't have seen, that it's like they're always trying to go after something that doesn't really exist. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, people have been watching these filthy things online, yeah, not knowing that that's a movie. There's, that's not real. That's, like, for example, if I watch an action movie and I see a guy jumping over 10, 20 buildings and flipping over and bullets hitting him and he's missing, like, am I going to believe that's real? Am I going to go and jump off buildings like that? Am I going to take bullets to my chest thinking that I can get up and just slap a bullet away? No, because it's a movie, right? So people are doing unrealistic things and they're experiencing unrealistic things because that's movie. You can do that, right? And that's the same with this filthy pornographic material. People grow up watching this stuff, watching a kind of intimacy that doesn't actually exist in the real world. It's the equivalent to an action movie of a guy jumping over 10, 20 buildings, getting shot left, right, center. You know, do you see what I'm saying? It's not real. It's not real. So the same way that action movie is not real, and he's doing unrealistic things, the same way in that filthy adult porn industry, they're doing things that are unreal. Do you see where I'm coming from? But because a person grows up watching this, they think that that's what intimacy life's going to be like when I'm married. So when the man actually has intimacy with his wife, or the woman has intimacy with the husband, they don't enjoy it because they're like, this is so dead. This is not what I've seen. I'm not enjoying it in the way that I saw other people enjoy it. I'm not experiencing what I saw other people experience. But you understand, that's all camera angles and tricks and whatnot. But this is based on my research that I've done. Yeah, this is not anecdotal experience. This is because articles that we've read and whatnot, because of the problems that people message us in with regards to the issue of pornography. It's the issue that we had to research and look into, and this is based on expert research that I've looked into and things that they've said, and that's what I'm referencing right now. So that's why they mention one of the reasons why intimacy is such a failure in marriage is because people have this expectation of intimacy from a false reality that they try to implement in the real world, and then that leads you to sexual perversion. You'll say, okay, you know what, let me try my wife entering into me from the back. Do you see? Like, let me try my wife tying me up and doing this and doing that, and let me do this to my, you know what I'm saying? And then it doesn't end anywhere. Now they've introduced like they're electrocuting. It's a part, yeah, it's a practice. They have these things you can buy in which you electrocute the person because they're like, I need more of a shock, I need more of an experience. Like the actual experience of climax is not enough, do you see? And that's sexual perversion, do you see what I'm saying? So Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah had a point in the sense where he said, having a woman on top, in and of itself, you can't say it's haram, but look what it could lead to. It makes the man more feminine. If the woman's always on top, that means she's always playing the man's role, okay? And it's not saying that a woman can't bring pleasure to herself from that position, but what it's saying is that it can't be that the man starts to behave like a woman to the point where eventually what's going to happen is that she's going to be on top, then she's going to be on top actually entering inside of him as well with these things that people get, yeah? So, I hope I answered the question. The short answer is that generally speaking, no, nothing is every position from the front is permissible. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. And this is the book that I keep talking about. Everyone's going to go get it now.